Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jim Ludema, and I'm Dean of the Calvin University School of Business, and I just want to extend a very warm welcome to each of you to this Executive Breakfast Series session on the future of commercial real estate. I think today's session is going to be a great one, and that's for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a very timely topic. Commercial real estate is facing all kinds of disruptions, as you know. For example, how many of you recently have seen retail stores close down or have gone into even some of the big box stores and found that the inventory that they have on their shelves is much less than what it used to be? And at the same time, you're seeing warehouses spring up all over in communities across West Michigan and beyond. So the question is, what is the impact of our increased online shopping going to have on commercial real estate going forward? There's also the question of what's going to happen to office space as people continue to work more and more from home, and what's going to happen to the housing market as we see expansions and contractions based on supply and demand, and how is this all going to be influenced by the labor market, by interest rates, by artificial intelligence and other digital technologies, and what opportunities exist there for investors, for space users, for industry service providers such as construction and brokers and interior furnishings. These are really interesting, big questions, which brings us to the second reason why it's going to be a great session today, because these questions are going to be answered by an exceptional panel of people with extensive experience in commercial real estate. In just a moment, I'll introduce the moderator of the panel, our very own Professor Leonard Van Drunen, who himself has extensive experience in commercial real estate, and then he will introduce the panelists in more detail. But first, I want to open with a word of prayer, and then say a couple of words about this Executive Breakfast Series and about the Calvin University School of Business. Please pray with me. Dear Lord, we know that everything belongs to you. You made it, you sustain it, and you guide it according to your great purposes. That's true for every person in this room and every industry and vocation to which we are called. So we ask that today, as we talk about and imagine the future of commercial real estate and its impact on the world around us, review or introduction to this Executive Breakfast Series, as you may know, this series is focused on the future of everything. And we usually have 3 sessions per year, and so we want you to come back for the rest of the season this year. And they're always great sessions on a timely topic related to business in some way. And they are led by Calvin University professors and alumni who have distinguished themselves in their field. For example, last year we had one on the future of college football, led by our own president, Dr. Wiebe Bohr, our athletic director, Jim Timmer, and our new head football coach at Calvin, Trent Fig. Another one we did was on the future of driving and autonomous vehicles, which was a fascinating session. And that one was led by Calvin alumnus Jeff Stout, who's the executive director of New Mobility at Yangfeng Automotive Interiors. Another one that was fantastic was on the future of music, and it was led by Calvin alumna Mary Took Kuras, former president and CEO of the Grand Rapids Symphony. And I believe, Mary, you are in the room. There you are. That was a great session. Thank you for doing that one. And then we had another one on the future of movies and media with Calvin alumnus J.D. Lokes, president and CEO of Celebration Cinema. And these were all sessions that give a fascinating look at the future of what the future holds for business and society, and how we as business leaders can play a creative and renewing role in Business. I just want to mention that the Executive Breakfast Series is co-sponsored by the Calvin Alumni Association and the Calvin Center for Innovation in Business. And so I just want to thank Jeff Haverdink. Jeff, where are you? Who's the director of the Calvin Alumni Association, and Bob Ames, who is the director of the Calvin Center for Innovation in Business, for sponsoring this series over the years and especially this year. I also want to thank a few other folks. Kristen Groom, who is the program coordinator in the Calvin Center for Innovation in Business, because she organizes all of this and makes it happen, along with our operations manager in the School of Business, Ann Gertner, our corporate relations coordinator in the School of Business, Ryan Lipsker, and Ashley Naughton from the Calvin Alumni Relations Office. So thank you to all of you, and thank you also very much to the staff here at the Prince Conference Center for all you do to make these events great events. And now I want to give a little introduction to the Calvin University School of Business. Because if you are involved with the Calvin University School of Business, that's great. And we want to keep you involved and thank you. Oops, clicking it and it goes the other way. Oops, of that building. Oops, clicking it and it goes the other way. Can you help me there? Anyways, we've got a great new building, and I'll click through some of those slides in just a minute. We've also got a tremendous group of students, very diverse, very international, super smart, super capable, super ethical, and they are being trained to be leaders and Christ's agent of renewal in the organizations into which they go. We've also got exceptional faculty, and I wanted to show you these pictures of these exceptional faculty, and maybe we'll still get that chance, but many of them are here in the room. And I just want to point out one in particular, and that's Scott Rush. Where is Scott? Can you raise your hand? He was here. He was here. Oh, he has a class. He had to run to a class. Well, that's a good segue to what I was about to say about Scott. Scott won the Teacher of the Year Award as nominated, elected by students at Calvin University last year. And that's just one of the many teaching awards that our faculty have won over the years. I see many others who have won them. Tom Betts, Bob Ames, Marilyn Stansberry, and others have won the teaching awards here. So we've got a really great group of faculty. The other exciting news is that in universities across the country, every year in the fall, we get a 10-day census report that tells us how our enrollments are doing. Today is that day. And I just want to report some really good news. Calvin University, you'll be happy to hear, is up 21% in terms of new freshman enrollments for this year. Fantastic news, and just a big shout out to our admissions team and others who have helped to make that happen. But in the School of Business, the numbers are even more encouraging. The number of incoming freshmen in the School of Business this year is up 27% over last year and 44% over 2021. So in the School of Business, we are in growth mode, not only in terms of numbers, but also in terms of programs. I think the slides are up and ready to go. Let me just run through them a minute. Yep, we got this great new building. If you haven't seen it, come on over. We'll let you visit. Great students, as you can see, very engaged, competent, ethical leaders who land great jobs coming out of our programs. Wonderful faculty. This is Jason Stansberry, our ethics professor. Jill Reisner, marketing. And then this is a bunch of our faculty, along with our President Wiebe Bohr and Provost Noah Tolley, and you see the little yellow circle around that head. That's Scott Rush, the guy that won the Teaching Excellence Award this year, voted by students. And you can see why. There's Scott. He hangs out in that atrium all the time with students, just helping to coach them and nurture them and mentor them along their way. We also have a lot of great student experiences, international trips. This is Hungary. We have a group over there right now. This is Kenya. And yes, that is a lioness. And yes, those are our students in those mini buses driving around. And fortunately, we kept them apart from each other. That happened just this past spring. And we've got lots of student organizations. Our Startup Garage, which is a startup incubator for students who want to start businesses. And 12 of them got started last year. And we're looking forward to a banner year this year. This is one of their pitch-up competitions. We've got other student organizations, the HR Club, Marketing Club, our Kim Knight Investment, Women's Business Network. It's just a dynamic community of students and faculty and partners in the business community that really help to make the education happen. And then here are our programs. You may not know this about Calvin, but we have 8 undergraduate majors. You can see them: accounting, business analytics, entrepreneurship, finance, financial planning, human resource management, marketing, and operations and supply chain management. We also have a number of minors and 2 graduate programs, a Master of Accounting and MBA. But I think the thing that makes Calvin University's School of Business so special is our mission. And I just want to take a moment to read that mission because it is a distinctive mission. We are a Reformed Christian institution, and we train leaders to be agents of renewal in the world. This is the mission: to provide an excellent, engaged, and faithful business education so that students increase in their learning, faith, citizenship, and vocation, and become innovative and ethical leaders in their organizations and communities. So again, if you have been involved with us, thank you very much for your support. And if you haven't, here are some ways to get involved. And come talk to any one of us here from the School of Business. You can serve as a guest speaker, a mentor to our students, host capstone projects, hire our interns and our graduates, and attend our leadership events. And Bob will be talking more, and Jeff will be talking more about some of those events coming up this year. So that's my intro to the School of Business, and we welcome you and we invite you to get involved with us. And now I want to introduce our moderator for today's session, and that is Dr. Leonard Van Drunen, Professor of Finance at Calvin University. And Leonard has a PhD in Finance from Purdue University and an MS in Finance from the London School of Economics. He taught corporate finance and investments for many years. He has taught corporate finance and investments for many years, was the chair of the Calvin Department of Business from 2010 to 2019, and is currently the director of our MBA program. But prior to joining Calvin, Leonard worked in investment banking, primarily in the area of commercial real estate. So he's the perfect moderator for this session. He worked as a managing partner with J.P. Morgan in New York, Tokyo, and London, and with Merrill Lynch in New York. Leonard is also an activist real estate investor here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and he can tell us more about that. But please join me in welcoming Leonard Van Drunen. Leonard?
Do you have a seating chart?
Nope.
I'll sit on the left-hand side. Are there 5?
Thanks for that, Jim. He mentioned I was the MBA program director, and I want to take a minute to say we do have an MBA program at Calvin. Its primary target is either new graduates, so if you're an undergraduate student here, you could go one more year and get your MBA. So I'm marketing to you. And actually the main take-up so far has been working professionals going on a part-time basis, so there's some of you here as well. So check out our MBA program. It's in our 3rd year now. Okay, enough of that. Thanks for joining us, guys. I'm going to let you do your own brief introduction. And especially if you could, of course, you're locally famous, but there may be 1 or 2 people here who don't know much about your organization and what you do there. So if you could specifically mention, how your organization participates in the real estate industry. That'd be really helpful.
Great. I'm Doug Tages, and our company that I'm a part of is NAI Global. Sorry about that. NAI Global and with NAI Wasinski Global. And our company is a team of 50 people that encompasses Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, and then to the Lakeshore. We're brokers. We help other people accomplish their real estate goals, and we have property management divisions and teams of people in the specialties such as retail, office, and industrial. So I've been in the business since a long time, and have kind of watched it go from non-centered Grand Rapids to really Grand Rapids as a robust powerhouse in this region and in this state and in the U.S. So enough about me.
Good morning. Sam Cummings. I am managing partner of CWD Real Estate Investment. I'm honored to be here with Leonard, Doug, Monica, and John. And I'm a Calvin College graduate from 1990. Our company is a owner-manager. If you see our sign on something, it's something that we own. And we are, I've been doing this for north of 30 years, and our investments are all in West Michigan. And we own and manage about 2.5 million square feet of office and retail now. We have dispensed with, for the moment anyway, all of our multifamily, thanks to one of the gentlemen in this room. But maybe we'll talk more about that later. But I'm honored to be here, and thanks for hosting us.
Good morning. My name is Monica Steinley-App, and I am Senior Vice President at Rockford Construction. We have been in the existence for over 35 years, located currently on the west side of Grand Rapids. We have offices in Detroit and Florida as well. My primary roles, I'm Senior Vice President. I lead our facilities management, asset management, and property management teams, and also focus on our business development for all of our business units, primarily here in Grand Rapids, but looking for opportunities all over. As I mentioned, we have the facilities, property, and asset management. We also have an equipment division. We have a carpentry division, trades, general trades, as well as construction and development services. So really looking to provide that full spectrum of services on behalf of our clients. Absolutely honored to be here with this group and love talking through how all these pieces in commercial real estate really impact one another and work together to accomplish what we're all looking for. So excited about our conversation ahead here.
Thanks for having me. My name is John Potvin. I'm a 2002 grad here at Calvin. Played basketball most of the time and then fit school in when basketball wasn't going on. No, I loved my experience here. The slide about how to be involved, I think, is really cool to see. There were a lot of mentors and people that took an interest in me when I was a student athlete here. And it really helped propel me to different careers that led me to commercial real estate at Colliers. We are a global real estate firm. I work out of our Grand Rapids office. I manage and lead the West Michigan offices for Colliers, which includes Lansing, Grand Rapids, Holland, and Traverse City. We also have a large office on the Detroit, in the Detroit market. So we have great coverage across the state. We're pretty much, we're located in almost every state across the U.S., every major city, and I think over 68 different countries. So we cover the waterfront. We're great competitors with NAI. Here in town, we talk about the different specialty groups. We cover all of those as well. That's retail, office, industrial, and investment sales, along with a full property management group. Our property management team oversees a little over 11 million square feet of real estate across the regions I just mentioned. So, yeah, full service commercial real estate. Excited to be here to talk today.
Great to have you. If you're not familiar with the real estate in West Michigan, the firms that these people are with represent some of the leaders, obviously, in West Michigan. Let's talk about West Michigan real estate, and specifically, let's start with office. Of course, we read in the paper how working from home, working remote, has a big impact on office space. We know some companies are downsizing their office staff. How has that impacted, and where has it impacted West Michigan? I'll throw it open to anybody who wants to go.
All right. Well, so look, I want to start, and I think we were talking at breakfast that there are no definitive answers. So a lot of this stuff is still being sorted out. What I think is interesting is, does anybody know what's going on in Europe relative to back to work and occupancy in the office? They're 100%. So the United States is actually the only major industrialized nation that is still kind of messing around with quote unquote working from home. So, it's super interesting. It's, one of the things I will say too, just as on a high level, we were talking about this at the table too, is that all businesses are cyclical. So every business has cycles and up, down, and it's one of the reasons why in business and in life you focus on fundamentals, right? You acquire the best fundamentals you can, or you adhere to the best values you can. So that's critical, and if you want to talk about fundamentals, we can do that. But relative to the office market, specifically in Grand Rapids, I would say presently, there's an adjective I use in my office, I'm not going to use it here, it's less bad than it is in other markets. I was actually looking at some of the data relative to distressed assets recently, and there are not very many in the office sector yet in West Michigan. I think part of that is a lot of the markets that are experiencing significant pain are those that really also experience significant growth. So in West Michigan, we really don't have the infrastructure for sort of 6 to 8%. We didn't build the infrastructure for 6 to 8% annual growth. So when you have demand destruction of 2 to 4 or whatever that number is, it doesn't cause as traumatic a shift. And certainly some sub-markets are more affected than others. I think the most affected sub-market, and I'd love to have the input on others' experience, has been downtown relative to that. I think the pandemic showed some of the weakness of downtown in that, for all of its benefits, and we can talk about this later because I still think that there are extraordinary benefits and reasons to be there, but it did articulate the accessibility challenge relative to others and the higher cost, and that cost that is it's higher cost, call it on my P&L, and it's actually a higher cost on the P&L of the tenant. And some of that cost that isn't controlled by us, meaning parking, city income tax, that it's a real additional cost to the tenant that is not controlled by, it's not, call it a COGS of the landlord. But that said, I still believe that, as I'm certain Monaco does, and I'm hopeful that Doug and John do, that that downtown Grand Rapids is remains the center of entertainment, commerce, et cetera, for our region, and there's a reason to be there. Sorry.
John, you're part of a global organization, Colliers. Is Sam's thesis that the U.S. is, sort of offbeat with work from home? Is that ring true for you?
I think For sure, I would agree with Sam in that I think we go through different cycles like this. I don't believe it'll always be like this, but we're, like, for our work, as an example, you know, it's not a one-size-fits-all because how people work on the East and West Coast, how they work in, we're considered a secondary market or a tertiary market for large organizations. So the metro markets, the downtowns for, call it Chicago, New York, Boston, Miami, Dallas, Houston, these are much, much larger cities. So all of the challenges that Sam mentioned, it's exponentially greater in these other markets. So therefore, in those markets, there is more of a demand for more of a hybrid working schedule. We have, we manage or do the leasing for one of the largest buildings downtown, which we're located in at Bridgewater Place. And one of our tenants that moved out last year because they decided to go fully remote, the tenant who backfilled them actually grew as a result of the pandemic, which is not that common. But they moved into this beautiful, beautiful space, took 9,000 square feet, and their work schedule at our building is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So Monday and Friday, they're not there. The average age of the people who work for this organization, I think, is around 24 or 25 years old, and that's what they're doing to make it work today. So it's just kind of adapting and working with who are your employees, who are your guests or clients that are coming to the building. It's different for everybody, but for the most part, in our building, nearly 400,000 square feet, what we've experienced in the past year and a half or so is a commitment to downtown. They want to stay in the building, but a lot of them are reevaluating how much space do they really need. And they're using space differently, a little bit smarter than before, and they want to make sure that they're creating an experience that people want to come back to. So that is in conjunction not just with the space that you work in, but also the building amenities are more important than ever, and walkability. So the walkability factor of being able to park your car somewhere at or near the building and be able to walk to places, coffee shops, great restaurants, retail's lacking downtown. But it's a bigger picture or a bigger question that you have to answer today is how are you providing that experience for your staff and for your clients? And I think it's making us smarter about how we do real estate, how we help our clients make good decisions, but it's certainly a challenge.
Thanks. Let's move to retail. Our other panelists can come back to office if they want, but let's go to retail. Online shopping, it's of course huge. Surely it's had an impact here in West Michigan. Where have we seen that impact, if we have? And what do you think that means for, Woodland Mall or downtown or, the big retail areas?
I'll start and they can jump in. I think one of the things historically you've seen is the Sears of the world are gone. Sears was 325,000 feet at Woodland, and that's been replaced with an 80,000-foot Von Maur, and then the outlots become more important. You've seen that in Granville, that mall, the big boxes are mostly gone. In the Lakes Mall, Sears is gone. We sold it to an automotive dealer. And so other uses are being made, as well as Yonkers is gone. That's being repositioned with 3 tenants in it. So I think there's too much big box space, but as Sam has said, retail in a lot of ways is just repositioning is probably stronger than most people realize. The experiential side of retail is alive and well, and I see the online continuing to grow, but I also don't see retail real estate as a problem at all.
Go ahead, Sam, if you want to, and then I'll jump in just with a couple of comments about retail and office. And this is something that we've discussed earlier as well. I think there's a national conversation, and then there's also a hyper-local conversation. What are we doing here? What are we seeing here in West Michigan? And ultimately, it's positive, right? And I think it's been intentionality. It's been the type, right? When we talk about the big box, what's happening there, we see it on the other side with construction of the industrial industry, and warehousing is big for us right now because we're building all of these warehouses for online shopping. But then, so focused on the downtown area, we're lacking a retail corridor. And we know that as a downtown, we know that as a city. And so there have been many efforts from folks on looking at how do we establish a retail corridor? How do we, what types of clients and businesses do we want to bring in? So I'm very hopeful. I think we have, we have some new tenants coming in, some new retail tenants. We've had some that have tried to come in and unfortunately haven't made it. So I've seen a lot of ebb and flow there. But it takes intentionality. It takes, it takes a lot of the new things that we have coming to the downtown area that are going to spur additional growth. It's going to come with more people that we have. We have to create that critical mass of housing and residents to be able to utilize that. So I'm not disheartened. It's coming. I think we have some great local retailers. Gazelle came in recently downtown, which is a great draw. We've got some others that'll be announced soon that are coming in that we're really excited about to help support and engage with each other. We have really strong established retail and business associations that have formed down there to help support each other. But we have some great upcoming projects as well. We have, as many of you I'm sure have heard, amphitheater and other great efforts being to make a draw into downtown Grand Rapids, which is going to spur some new growth. You've also, I'm sure, heard about a Little River project that's coming as well, and how we have some great work on the river. That's going to spur additional retail and recreational retail opportunities for folks. So it's coming, it's there. I think it's positive, and really excited to continue that growth. We have with office, we have some great new tenants that have come to downtown Grand Rapids, Perigo being one of them, bringing their headquarters to downtown Grand Rapids along with all of their employees. Acrisure has chosen downtown Grand Rapids. With all of that and with their encouragement to bring folks back to the office, that really spurs not only helping office, but the retail support as well.
Thanks. Monica's right about, and John as well, about office. There is no one, because we also have seen, we've seen some accounting firms cut themselves in half. We've seen other accounting firms double in size. It's super interesting. It's a culture. And, being in the customer service business as we are with our office product, it's super interesting because I get to talk to all these folks. Very often they're the president of the organization, or they're the local vice president of a national organization, and it's super interesting. Retail. Again, Doug, talked about big boxes and stuff like that, and we had this conversation before we got up on stage. Is the big boxes that provided sort of a commodity have been most challenged. But I was also saying that our retail, we have one big power center. And then we have a bunch of grocery anchored strips, and then Breton Village, Breton South. And so we're in the southeast submarket in Grand Rapids as well as the southwest corridor. There are 2.5 trade areas in our gross trade area in Grand Rapids. But our rents in our centers are at all-time high, and so is our occupancy. But a lot of our tenants have been very focused on experience. So what they sell is experience as much as product, and they've deliberately created place. It's not unlike what John was talking about earlier too, about creating place that people want to be, and that's part of what the new office mantra is too. Is when people were working from home, it gave pressure for people to work closer to home. So in order to entice people back to the office, a lot of these the companies that really want in-person culture, because business is a team sport, and candidly, if I were going to the Super Bowl of business, I would much rather be going with a group of folks that I'm used to working with than a group of talking heads on Zoom. But really, what people are focusing on is creating a work environment that people want to go to.
Let me just add on to that just a little bit. We have a landlord that has added a full-time chef. He comes in every day, and part of his duty is to create lunch for anybody that works in this building. And they've also added live plants as part of the atmosphere. They've got a fitness center on the lower level, and they're next door to the pickleball courts up at Belknap. And they've created the furniture package, and one of the tenants decided to move on, and our rents there, we're asking $29 triple net, which if you add $10 to that, it's probably the highest cost space in the marketplace. And I took a group of engineers who are out on the belt line and tired of their space, want to grow and want to be close to the action. And we signed a deal this past week, and it was all about the experience that was created by this landlord. So it was really a fun anecdote.
Sounds like a place I'd want to work. We kind of have that next door, actually, in our new building. Let's talk about interest rates. Interest rates have gone up, as everybody knows, and how that has impacted commercial real estate is a couple different ways. First of all, it's harder to make new deals work if you have to pay a higher interest rate on your loan. But secondly, a lot of existing real estate is owned with debt, and maybe that debt is coming due. Probably that debt's coming due in the next few years, and it will be hard to refinance it. And banks know that. And banks are now very nervous about getting their real estate loans paid back, and therefore less inclined to make new ones. The thing is that a lot of the real estate boom in the last 10 years was partly driven by bank lending. So now with that being pulled back, is that going to, crush real estate in West Michigan or not? Monica, Rockford probably uses some debt from time to time.
We do. Occasionally we borrow money to get projects done. And that's exactly right. I mean, you essentially, it's harder to borrow money. Banks aren't as excited about lending and at the same amount, right? So as you're seeing the interest rates move up, as they are at just a really high level at this point, it becomes harder to finance projects. And then coming up with more money at risk with potential less return. Folks forced to put up personal guarantees on things. It is absolutely risky at this point. One of the things you're seeing is really an increase in getting some of these projects done is really through these public-private partnerships as well, and looking to other sources for money, for funding, for capital. Patient capital is something that comes to play here. Those that are willing and wanting to invest for a particular purpose here in the area long term. You're seeing state funding sources through incentive programs, new and revised incentive programs to make projects work. On top of everything else, you have, in order to build a project, you also have construction costs that are accelerated, and not necessarily for materials at this point, but because of labor, construction costs are very high. So it's almost a cycle, and then it takes longer to get financed. So then your carry costs on loans become right. It takes it's all impacting each other. So I think it's finding all those sources, being able to piece them all together, finding the right partnerships that are ready to be a part of a solution and a project, more than just going in and financing a project and getting it done. So it's taking innovation, creativity, partnerships, and conversations to understand what that looks like.
Go ahead, John.
So when I first graduated from Calvin, I was in the financing world, different. I was doing residential mortgage loans. But one of my mentors, who's also a Calvin grad, said to me, the funny thing about banking is when interest rates are low and people don't likely need as much money, the banks are willing to lend more money than you should probably borrow. And at times of stress, typically when interest rates are moving up and people are desperate for money, that's when banks will not lend money. So it's ironic, but I've seen it play out several times. Just one quick example. Last year, we were approached by a current client of ours. They have a large retail center just half hour or so outside of Grand Rapids, nearly fully leased. They wanted to wait until it was over 95% occupancy, and they were pursuing an investment sale. We underwrote the project, or the deal, and we had estimated, this was around, probably around May, June of last year, that we could offer this property up and likely sell it somewhere on the low end, 16.5, high end, $17.5 million. Unfortunately, the people that make decisions for this group, I think they just took the summer off, and they contacted us back in, I believe, August or September with the idea that now is the right time to do it. Well, the world started to change late summer, early fall last year. By the time we underwrote it again, losing no tenants whatsoever, the rent roll was the same. We underwrote the deal at around $13.5, $14 million. Their debt wasn't nearly that high, but literally in the course of 3 or 4 months, with a couple interest rate hikes and the threat of people not knowing how much higher interest rates were going to go, just completely diminished the appetite for investors. So a lot of the things that we're talking about today, things that haven't changed a lot, are the everyday deals, the office, industrial, retail deals that take place, because it's local businesses or even national businesses, but they need space. They have to operate somewhere, somehow. But what's really, really slowed down are the capital markets or investment sales, because the interest rate market, inflation, that's had a huge, huge impact on their business. So in that example I gave you, we did go out to market on that property at an undisclosed price. We never received an offer over about $13 million. The group decided not to sell, but their interest rate on their loan, their 5-year debt, was maturing at the end of this year. They were borrowing money, I believe, at 2 5/8, and they're going to, I think, around 6.5%. So the challenge for them is their NOI, or their net operating income, was at X because of the borrowing costs being in the mid 2%. Now, we've kept all the tenants there, nearly at 100% occupancy, but their NOI is going to go down dramatically because the rent increases aren't going up enough to cover the debt service increases. So therefore, the value's lost either way that you look at it. So now they're going to have to hold much longer. That's what's really affecting our business today. Our investors, groups that want to sell, can't sell for the price that they want to sell at or desire to sell at. And the groups that want to acquire them, they're coming in as investors. Their debt is costing 2 or 3 times the debt cost of the original owner. So therefore, we kind of have a stalemate in the business, or it's just pause, if you will, for the time being.
I'd love to hear more from Sam, but and I'm sure we will, but let's shift to some questions from the audience. We have about 5 or 10 minutes. And I know there's some young people here. Thanks for coming. If you're wondering what's going to happen over the next 20, 30 years, ask these people, if you, for example. But questions from the audience. And we have a microphone over there and over there. So just raise your hand and they'll bring a mic over to you.
Got one right here.
Are you seeing any interest in converting into retail from the commercial side? And there's still so much demand on that end.
So, I mean, one of the things that I think we've all been talking about is, what's your name?
Dan Vanderpot.
Hi, Dan. Is fundamentals. So you know, one of the, like, there are probably many people in the room here who lived through a recession. There are probably many that never have either, which is interesting, right? I mean, we've been in the longest expansion, peacetime expansion for a long time, right, since 2009, essentially, right, where we haven't had a significant recession. But the, you know, back then, the worst properties were the ones that fared the worst. And, you know, one of the things we were talking about up here were fundamentals too. So if the fundamentals are good on a big box, on a big box real estate or a building, if the fundamentals are good on the dirt underneath, the use can change. And that's the part where opportunity presents itself, is a lot of times Wall Street and economists, et cetera, underwrite the uses, but our job is actually to underwrite the dirt as well. So when we're always talking about real estate fundamentals. So there's always got to be a plan B or C. And a lot of times that's where trouble starts, is when there isn't a plan B or C. And a lot of these triple net deals, for instance, were in the recession were underwritten based on the use only, and the underlying real estate and the co-tenancy in the area was half that. So when that tenant went bankrupt, the real estate was worth half of what it was. Does that answer your question? You said housing.
Yeah.
I thought you said retail.
No, sorry. On
Okay.
the housing side, you know, so it just seems like it makes more sense, you know, especially downtown, to convert some of the office space.
Sure. We were talking about this too. If we could kind of wave a magic wand and take all of our collective office vacancy, consolidate it into one or two buildings, and then convert the other two to residential, that'd be fantastic. The challenge is that a lot of times in these buildings, we've got, even if you hypothetical building that's 100,000 square feet, you've got even if you have 70% vacancy, you've got 30,000 square feet with lease term. So you've got to solve for relocating those tenants before you can even start the engineering, MEP, you know, all the things you need to do to convert that building to residential. So it's not impossible, but it is a challenge.
Just to comment on the residential, if you have not been up Plainfield Avenue, take a drive. There is, I think, two projects, one of them just about complete, another one coming out of the ground on Leonard at the Sun Title Building. There's 150 planned, and then the Monroe Corridor, there are 650 units that are planned and coming close. So there's at least 1,000 units in process there. So the housing is moving pretty strong on the north end of Grand Rapids right now, just as a add-on.
Another question from the audience. We got one right in the back there. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mark Gradanis. You were talking about high interest rates putting pressure on prices for investment deals. Is this giving an opportunity? Are you seeing more liquid investors jumping into the market to take that opportunity?
So if you got some money, is this distress an opportunity?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Anybody else? No?
I can help.
Sure.
Go for it.
You know what? Maybe, but not yet. I mean, right where we are right now, and thankfully in West. Again, Monica said something about hyper local. You know, if you, a lot of us look at reports relative to who's borrowed what and CMBS stuff. As of yet, there's not a lot of office distress in West Michigan. There's some larger retail distress, but I think what we're talking about to date is, again, going back to what we were talking about before, the fact that we never built the infrastructure for 6 to 8% annual growth, so we didn't really dramatically overbuild, And also, I mean, culturally, West Michigan, we tend to be a little more conservative. So, you know, we haven't, and again, I'm generalizing, but generally we haven't over-leveraged a lot of stuff. So what we're talking about today is really sort of equity destruction, but and hopefully temporary equity destruction. At some point, either the interest rates have to go back down, which I think is probably a little unlikely, but the rates have to come up. But so far, not a significant amount of what is deficit equity, which is when, you know, you're seeing in like major REITs like Brookfield, et cetera, throwing keys on serious buildings. So not yet in West Michigan. John?
I wasn't going to answer that much different than Sam did. I think there is a little, there's more blood in the water in other large markets than ours. I'm on calls with our Colliers leadership of major offices on a monthly basis, and at times it feels we're a little boring in West Michigan, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just their highs are really high, their lows are really low, and we're much more kind of flatlined. So, for example, there's a building that I studied it a bit because it looks and feels awfully like our building that I work out of downtown at Bridgewater. And it was in Louisville, and I think it traded hands earlier this year where the investor bought it kind of in the $40 million range, I think in 2018. Magically, 5 years later, they probably had a 5-year loan on the building. They lost one or two of their largest tenants in there, and they turned the keys back in, and it sold for $7 million earlier this year. That seems like a heck of a deal, but you're buying a 400,000 square foot building that has a lot of fixed costs to it, and it's occupied. I think its occupancy was at around 20%. So those are some pretty dramatic swings. We typically don't experience those types of highs or those types of lows here. I do believe there will be some serious investment opportunity for new investors in the future, but the blood is not in the water like you might read in the news, at least in West Michigan.
So in short, Mark, when you see Mercantile Bank foreclosing on some of their real estate deals or Sam throwing in the keys, that's an opportunity. Other questions? I think we had one right here.
Yes. My name's Paul White. First of all, thank you. The information has been phenomenal, and I appreciate you sharing your knowledge. 2 questions. One starts with the 100% return to office in Europe. Why hasn't the United States followed that? And typically, does Europe follow the patterns of the United States, and they're leading on this? And what would that mean to the commercial real estate market if the United States went back to 100%? And then the second question is, for someone, and I know it may not be as exciting for you, looking to invest under $5 million in commercial real estate, do the smaller markets in the surrounding Grand Rapids area, because you focused a lot on downtown, and that's good, but do the surrounding markets offer different types of opportunities than the larger market?
Let's take the first one first. Perspectives on returning to work. Monica.
I would say, and this goes back to intentionality and, as far as following trends, I would say Europe has always done fairly, they're an older world and have figured out the really the urban planning type model where you have these great corridors with mix of residential and commercial and just these thriving communities. And as far as why we have not, I guess I have some probably opinions about that. But I will say that there is a major focus here, and again, it's a hyper-local conversation, of getting folks back to work. But, it's been a battle, and as somebody up here was mentioning, we've got, with a lot of the younger team members as well joining with that have had the opportunity to work from home. I think that's also something. We're in a world of trying to recruit talent and having labor shortages, and we're trying to bend over backwards to even hire. And so when some of the demands per se or experience that folks are looking for coming into the workforce are wanting to have some sort of a hybrid model, it becomes very difficult to deny that and be able to still function. So the conversations are happening. To be honest, if we could figure it out, and if we get to that point, yes, I think it helps our economy in a major way, right? Then you get the customers you need for retail, you get folks that are engaging in opportunities, whether it's a near neighborhood, outside neighborhood, downtown, but that creates a thriving 24/7 environment that a neighborhood needs and a community needs to function.
We're running a little short on time. I would like to take one more question from this gentleman right here in the blue suit. I thought you had your hand up. You can use this mic.
All right. My name is Wiebe Boer from Calvin University. I'm going to take advantage of you guys being here to get some free consulting advice. Calvin University, as you heard, is growing. If we keep growing at this rate, and we plan to, we're going to very soon need new dorms. We want additional retail on campus, maybe office space, classrooms. How could we partner with companies like yours to do this in a more commercially oriented way rather than wait 20 years to raise the money?
Well, you've already started by throwing it out there. And I would say that's exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing, whether it's higher ed or corporations or businesses wanting to develop their workforce, their student experience, and so wanting to create more of that environment. So, and so we at Rockford Construction have been having those conversations with folks of how can we help partner along the way. And when I talk about public-private partnerships, it's exactly what it is. It's bringing folks together to understand what can I bring to the table? How can I help you create that experience for your students, for your clients, for your workforce? And then how do we pull that all together? But I think those conversations are exactly what need to happen, and that's exactly what we're seeing.
Thank you, panelists. Really appreciate it. They will be here after we're done. Young people, if you are attracted to their organizations, come up and introduce yourself. Maybe they'll hire you, especially if you agree to come into the office 5 days a week. And everybody else, feel free to talk to them afterwards. Thank you so much.
Okay, that was fascinating and could have probably gone on a lot longer. So thanks to the guest and the moderator. So again, Jeff Haverdink, Director of Alumni Engagement. Just a couple of announcements real quick before we go. As we heard throughout this morning, there's a lot happening here at Calvin this fall. So just to draw your attention to a couple of things, we'd love to see you back here for a few of these activities. Starting Monday, actually, next week, the Award for Scholarship on Christianity in Business will be held here next Monday, 4 o'clock. We are excited to welcome Dr. Brett Smith from Miami University. He's done some amazing work on impact investing and so forth. The award is going to recognize him for his academic paper, and we're excited to have him here next Monday. Then, an annual amazing event here at Calvin, the Calvin Business Partner Awards Luncheon, October 4. Put that on your calendar. We'd love to see you back here for the CBPAL Awards. Bob Chapman will be our keynote speaker. Bob has done some really amazing work the last couple of decades, recognizing, right, that great business strategy can be coupled successfully with profound care for people. We've heard a lot about kind of the importance of employees and people, and Bob's written a best-selling book on that. We'll be excited to have him here for that talk. Live to Lead, that same week, first week of October, a lot going on. If you are looking to energize your staff, yourself, come back to Calvin Friday, October 6th. The Maxwell team will be at work again. John Maxwell, keynote speaker, Ryan Leake, Kendra Scott, and Marcus Buckingham. So we'll be here, Live to Lead, Friday, October 6th. And then grab your phones, put this one on your calendar. November 15, our next executive breakfast series, the future of hypersonic travel. So this gets the aviation buff in me all excited. I can't wait for this one. Venus Aerospace is working on a plan to put you on a plane in Chicago and have you in London an hour later. So we're going to hear from those that are at the cutting edge. The CEO and co-founder, Sass Duggleby, will be joining us, as well as Chris Palmer. Chris is the Director of Corporate Strategy. He's a 2006 Calvin grad, and he also teaches courses here at Calvin. He's an entrepreneur in his own right, so our students are benefiting from Chris. So November 15, put that on your calendar. As you've heard from Jim and others this morning too, we are looking for partnerships with you all. We couldn't do this project here at Calvin to educate young men and women without you. CAP projects, Calvin Action Projects. These are dedicated students with faculty mentors. If you've got challenges or problems or things you'd love a fresh set of eyes on, please engage with us. We are always looking for more partners to help you get some students in there and take a look at some of the things that are going on in your world. So we'd love to work with you there. The Career Center, the Calvin Career Center, has a new program. This one's pretty cool too. It's a job shadow program. It's not an internship. It's a quick, light way for our students to get to walk in your shoes for a brief period of time. I know if I was a Calvin student, I would love to have gone out and talked to a few people who are out there doing their thing. So if you would love a great way to interact at a very kind of, I think, doable level with our Calvin students, consider being a job shadow. Have them come in and take a look at what you do for a living so we can give our students a peek into your worlds. And then we have the same opportunity for Calvin faculty. We have a Calvin faculty externship program. These are Calvin faculty who are looking to get engaged with you at your place of business. This is a great opportunity for you to have one of our faculty come and take a look at some of the challenges that you're working on. You get their perspectives and opinions. But this also is fantastic for our faculty to see what's happening real world in your spaces. They can bring that back, incorporate it to the curriculum, and help train your future employees who are sitting in this room with you as to what's happening today in your space. So if you would like to be a host for a faculty externship, we'd love to partner with you there. And then it didn't make the slide reel, but just want a quick plug for homecoming weekend here at Calvin. Last weekend of September, Saturday, for those runners out there, we've got an amazing 5K course here on campus. I'd love to have you come out and get one last 5K in before the snow flies. And then for those that thought they'd never see this day happen, that same Saturday, the 30th, at 1 p.m., we will see Calvin students wearing maroon and gold in football pads. So our first scrimmage for Calvin's football program will happen Saturday, 1 o'clock, Grand Rapids Christian, Eagle Stadium. I'd love to see you out there to watch them scrimmage before their real season starts next fall. So great to have all of you in this room again today. Thanks again to our panelists. Fascinating. Thanks to Bob and the team and everybody for bringing this together. Look forward to seeing you on campus this fall. And with that, blessings on your day. Thank you.